The sudden and quite frankly jarring resurgence of the Mafia series this past month was a surprise. With the exception of the more recent Mafia 3, 2002's Mafia and its sequel were games I have not thought about in years. With the dramatic reveal that the first game is being remade from the ground up as part of a newly repackaged Mafia trilogy, I'm curious to see how the first two games, born out of a genre created as a result of Grand Theft Auto 3's success, could be received today. While the first game won't be out later this year, Mafia 2 The Definitive Edition is one of two playable games you can get right now. I had thought Mafia 2 to be a fairly middle-of-the-road sequel that leaned a little too heavily in Scorsese territory. That assessment still holds true today, but what really captured my attention the second time around is how badly it performs on the PlayStation 4. Mafia 2 is an amalgamation of movies that prominently feature the Italian Mafia's tightening grip on the criminal underworld. As Vito Scaletta, you'll make the all-too-familiar and precarious climb up the ranks of organized crime in Empire Bay, a 1940s and 50s analog of New York City. After earning a deferment for service fighting Germany during World War II, Vito comes home and finds himself wanting more out of a home life that has forced his mother and sister to take on their father's serious debts. In need of quick cash, Vito turns to his childhood friend Joe, who could easily be portrayed by Joe Pesci, who has connections with a few generous, legitimate businessmen that can help him out. What follows is a by-the-numbers gangster story that has all of the backstabbing, strained friendships, and cheek-kissing you'd expect from mafioso films. Vito's quest will take him all over the city of Empire Bay and engaging in all manner of crime and shady dealings designed to get him the money and respect he feels is owed. Mafia 2 divides its time between driving around the streets of Empire Bay and engaging in shootouts with other guys carrying guns. Neither of these activities is overly entertaining. No one is going to come into this adventure hopping with excitement over being forced to follow traffic laws, which end up making the police force in the game more of a nuisance. The game's accessible vehicles buck conventions too, because a fair share of cars handle like someone attached four wheels to a steamer ship. Flashier cars are more fun and better looking to drive, however, you're never really encouraged to enjoy that pursuit of steering it around a block or two. The police aren't nearly as aggressive in their ticketing as they were in the first game, and they let you get away with running red lights and going over the limit so long as they're a good distance away. Give in to their demands to pull over, and you can either pay a fine and be on your way, or take out the cop and set yourself on a citywide chase that won't end until you've eluded pursuit and switched out license plates at a local body shop. Every car comes with a safe driving mode that prevents them from going faster than 50 or so miles per hour, and that's about as fun as painting a fence. Driving is a casual affair until it isn't, as some missions call for you to race to and from different locations within a certain amount of time. Were the driving much more fun to begin with, these sections could have been thrilling, but they're not. No matter how well they've been recreated to fit the era the game takes place in, vehicles are just nothing more than a means to get you from point A to point B in a speedy fashion. All roads lead to violence, and as Vito takes orders from his bosses, he ends up seeing a lot of it. As an enforcer for the mob, Vito and Joe see themselves involved in a lot of wet work designed to stay atop the competition or serve as recompense for being wronged or insulted by the different criminal factions. Mafia 2 modernized combat a bit, taking it away from the mouse and keyboard to the more sensible and comfortable third-person over-the-shoulder variety. Shootouts are often lengthy affairs set in and around alleyways, slaughterhouses, factories, and other interiors identified by the large number of cover objects that provide some breathing room during engagements. Enemies aren't particularly smart, though they know enough to stay in cover as long as they can and rarely make any moves to outflank the player. They also have a tendency to soak up bullets unless you're frequently aiming for the head. They drop weapons too, so there's not much fear to be had over running out of bullets. To its credit, Mafia 2 introduced missions that you could fail and still carry on with the rest of the story. Losing sight of a vehicle you're meant to pursue could end with the characters deciding to go home or reach out to a contact for assistance. Like the vehicle portions, shootouts aren't much to write home about. They're fairly straightforward experiences that don't push the envelope of third-person shooting. I could keep going about how Mafia 2 is a perfectly competent game that doesn't drastically shift the needle one way or the other. I could talk about the looming sense of artificiality, that the city of Empire Bay feels like a Truman Show-esque movie set. You're free to walk the streets and explore, but why would you? There's nothing there. Except for the occasional clothing and weapons shops, there's really nothing to see, no matter how well built it appears. There are gas stations, but unless the story requires you to visit them, there's no real need to go there. Mafia 2 is also surprisingly anachronistic in its use of licensed music and Playboy-sponsored collectibles, and to be fair, that's going to bother the history buffs the most. These were concerns I had in 2010 that still resonate today. However, they pale in comparison to a remaster that suffers from a significant amount of gameplay and technical concerns. The remastering process has created frequent and erratic framerate stuttering and lockups along with poor audio mixing. The framerate drops are more prevalent whenever you're driving around the city, and because that accounts for more than 50% of the game, it's, well, yikes. Game audio also has problems as a result of bad volume mixing, in which car radio news briefs, which highlight your activities in game, are drowned out by the engine noise and too loud music. I tried playing with headphones to see if it made things better, and discovered that cutscene audio was split, with all dialogue coming out of the left ear and ambient sound effects out of the right. I eventually got used to keeping my TV remote handy in order to make adjustments to audio when everything's got too loud or quiet, which is generally something I don't want to have to worry about. One final comment on audio: there was a part of the game that I swear it kept playing the previous cutscene's music on a loop until the next scene was triggered by a mission giver. Mafia 2 isn't quite a carbon copy clone of the Grand Theft Auto formula. The basic mission structure is there, but little in the way of diversions and side activities, which all open-world games offer in spades these days. By stripping the design to its bare threads, Mafia 2 is judged primarily on its shooting and driving mechanics as well as its skill in delivering a drama set in post-war America. The story itself is pretty okay, despite its heavy lean on worn Mafia movie stereotypes and tropes. However, this remaster is hurt by its poor showing on the PlayStation 4 because of numerous and frequent problems within the most vital portions of the game. This is the kind of show I'd expect from something that was rushed out to the market, and the results are pretty disappointing. You're almost better off tracking down the original PC copy of the game until Hangar 13 and D3T Limited make the fixes that are so desperately needed. DarkStation gives Mafia 2 the definitive edition 2 stars.